Do not try any of this at home.
We're what you call professionals.
Shadowversity.
The katana, the weapon of choice for both samurai and keyboard warrior alike, which I feel is a little bit, biased. Why can't keyboard warriors use long swords rather? There's a lot of types of swords, keyboard warriors. Anyway, mythologized by Hollywood and anime as a mystical blade of unparalleled power and craftsmanship. With the rise of kung fu, martial arts, cinema, and Japanese animation, it has been elevated beyond a simple weapon into a legend. With the capacity to cut through any weapon, even tear the fabric of space and time itself. But has the mythos of this elegant sword gone too far? Join us as we test the misconceptions that have paved the way for the katana's unearned status as the greatest sword humanity has ever crafted. And look, I love the katana. I think it's one of the most beautiful swords ever made, equal to many other swords that are also very, very beautiful. And I've addressed many of those misconceptions in past videos, but rarely have we actually tested them, Can it chop through a machine gun barrel, or go through armor, or cut space and time? We need to find out. And so we're going to be doing that in this video, which has also been kind of sponsored by Baylor Arms, who has sent this very nice katana for review.
This, as you can see, is no joke, genuinely ready to cut flesh.
And we're going to be putting this katana through all these tests, most likely breaking it, but that's going to give us a great level of insight as to how durable it really is.
But let's start with the little ones first, before we make our way to the big ones. One of the ones I'm thinking of to start with is the silk drop test. Now, the silk drop test is a myth that says you should be able to get a katana and place it out, edge up, and drop a piece of silk on it. And that silk should just split, like the katana would slice through anything. Now,
I don't want to make any predictions, but that's not going to work.
Yeah, to me that doesn't seem right. I get it. It sounds very romanticized. It sounds very mythological. Doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound physically correct unless you have weights on the end of the silk or something. But
well, we've got the katana here. We've got our little myths to test.
And I happen to have some silk over there, so
let's go. So as we said before, we are going to be starting off with the smaller myths or misconceptions.
Yes, because otherwise if we start with the big ones, we're probably going to ruin it straight away.
You've already seen that it is a properly sharpened live blade, battle ready, as they say. What is the first little misconception or myth we're going to test?
Well, one of the myths I happen to have here in my pouchy pouch is that a true katana, a real katana, will pass the silk test.
Now, don't worry about etiquette because we're past that point.
Yeah, I think so. And if we're not past that point, we are about to get past that point.
We're just doing the light stuff.
No, hold it up. Hold it up. Like we've got to check this. So let's get a bit of silk and let's straighten this out. So it's only a single edge,
right?
But it should pass the silk drop test, which means I do this. No, that didn't seem to work for some reason.
Was something supposed to happen just then?
Like it's sharp. Hang on, let me try that again.
What?
I'm just checking if it's still sharp. I mean, I think it's still sharp.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually really sharp.
Yeah.
I know we know it's sharp, but like that's fabric cutting scissors sharp, and it's not fabric cutting scissors. Look at that.
So nothing happened?
No.
Nothing happened?
No.
Genuinely, this is probably the nicest katana I own at the moment. It is in a very affordable price range, but its fit and finishes are some of the nicest I have, with some exceptional kind of standout elements. For one, this is made out of T10 steel, which is great steel. But even with it being out of such great steel, it has actual real differential hardening on it with an authentic hammer. So if you don't know what a hammer is, it's the wavy line that creates this pattern along the edge. A lot of kind of more affordable katanas have a fake hammer, which I can show you right here, where it's been etched onto the steel through either acid or any number of things. This brings up another flaw about lesser quality katanas, which is the tip. I believe it's called the yokoto or yokote. I'm bad with pronunciation, don't expect much from me of that. That's usually on authentic katanas. You will see that the tip actually has kind of like a different angle, shine, reflectiveness, and to achieve it on, you know, lesser quality katanas, they will actually just etch it a bit differently to the rest of the blade. And it's not achieved through the actual geometry, which is the grinding and the shape of the blade tip itself. Here, on the Baylor Arms Shinto Oni Katana, this is a geometric yokote, blah, blah, blah. But it's achieved through the actual geometry of the blade. It's authentic. You can actually see the angling. Very nice.
What else have we got?
We do have one, but we're going to have to stand up for the next one.
What's the next one?
The next one is we go find a table, and apparently a katana is very, very light compared to a medieval sword. So we could test the weight versus an arming sword, which is about an equivalent length, and see.
All right, let's do that then. We have our scales here and we have our katana. We're going to be weighing this one, and Nate has run off to get a sword of comparative size, at least with the blade length. This one is 1.13, yeah, about there, 1.13 kilos.
So we've got a blade of similar blade length.
We'll show that. So,
however, not quite handle size, because obviously grip and the amount of weight inside a grip does come into play. So we have something that is more weighty again because it's more steel, but just for blade length, let's measure this one. 1.03.
Yep. So this one is lighter.
Yeah.
Now, as we said, it has a little bit less handle, but in terms of blade length, they are
pretty close. Pretty close. That's not bad by eye.
So this one, we have a long sword here.
Now this is, in regards of total length, far bigger than the katana, but handle size
is about the same.
So we should have theoretically much more weight with this, but let's just see. So that is
1.2.
Yeah, so 0.2 kilos, so...
That is crazy. These two are so similar in weight. We're
100
talking,
grams.
Yeah. Just maybe like 200 grams, something like that. Something really, really small. Yeah. And look at the difference. This misconception is a bit of a weird one because it always depends on not only how long the blade is, how thick the blade is, how much of a handle you have, like because you have things like the tachi, which is a little bit longer and a little bit bigger.
Exactly, so it goes for a lot of different things at the same time, but really like swords weigh roughly about the same, and if they are different in weight, it's for a reason. Like you get some of the Eastern swords, not necessarily katanas, that have big heavy hammers at the top.
It's just weird to say that katanas are always lighter. I don't understand where that would come from, other than you really love katanas and you want them to be the best for some reason.
Yeah.
Now, personally, something that we can talk about with weight is they are weighted in different areas.
They are.
Now, I personally like how the weight is distributed on a katana. I personally like them
a little front heavy, Whereas me, I actually don't mind a lot of weight around either this zone because I like a good sturdy block. So if I'm parrying, that's fine. I want a quick tip anyway, but having a nice amount of weight to help with a good sturdy block, that's where I want my weight. Yeah. So it's each to their own, I suppose.
The geometry of the blade is actually really nice, where has a distal taper. It starts at around 5 mil and it gets to, at the very tip, about 3-ish, 4 mil, but there's definitely a distal taper. The actual kind of profiling of the blade is very, very nice. You see a more pronounced ridge on the spine, beautiful fuller. It has really solid brass fittings, real race skin, really narrow primary bevel. You can barely see a secondary bevel at all. It came very, very nice and sharp, and we've already been playing with this a little bit in other videos and been pleasantly surprised by its performance. Its weight is everything that you would want out of a katana. So this actually, like I said, nicest katana I own. Cult of Athena did send this to us for review, which is why we're probably gonna destroy it, you know. We'll get to see how tough it is, won't we?
There is another thing we can test. You said about blocking.
Yes. Well, that's a good point. There is actually a misconception with blocking that a Suba, if I've pronounced that correctly, is just as good as a crossguard.
So why don't we do a couple of blocks? Let's test the Suba.
Okay. Testing a live blade what could possibly
We'll put some gloves on. We'll
go wrong.
We'll be safe.
Okay, who's hitting who? Why are you always hitting me? I already know the answer to this. Come on, let's go.
So, Nate, you've got a little glove on here.
Yes, I have a little glove on here, specifically a HEMA-based glove. So once it wraps around my hand, it for the most part covers me.
Now, I have a blunt sword.
You do?
This is one we use for training. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. I am going to be striking, and you will use the Suba to block it.
Nice. So
straightforward and simple.
It's fairly straightforward and simple. Just as I said before, this is not necessarily the way katanas were used, but the misconception is that it blocks as well as a crossguard. So we'll use this, then we'll go and grab another sword with a bigger crossguard, and we'll just see what happens.
Go again.
Go again, and I'll turn the blade into it. Okay, so,
oh God.
I know. So we tested a couple of things here. One is I was just going slightly in. So using the crossguard as a good example, slightly in to see how much it would catch, and it was bouncing most times.
It was bouncing.
So then what I did was I far more aggressively put the edge into it, because on a sword with a crossguard, if it doesn't bite and even if it bounces, it comes out to the crossguard and you can pull it back in. So we actually got a proper bite a few times on that, and it just stopped. It just stopped dead. That's what fighting swords do. And it has rolled the edge. So
I love this sword. I actually genuinely like this sword. You've seen me use this sword a lot, and we are going to destroy it. And it's just, you know, like, it's really just dawned on me right now
that we're going to destroy a really nice katana for the sake of really testing katanas.
But yes, the sword was bouncing and was completely missing the Suba, and I was hitting your arm. The first time you didn't catch it because we were facing this way, but then we got a different camera angle so you guys could see, and every single time it was bouncing off the blade except
when I turned the blade into it. Now, but there is one thing we didn't test, which is much more of a vertical shot to see if on a rolling the crossguard or Suba into it, not that it matters so much with the Suba, will that change anything? So you're going to have to go again, and we're going to chip this up. We're scratching it up and we're turning it rather than catching on the edge, because it is just biting into the edge. We're trying to turn and catch into the Suba.
Something you would do with something like this. You would do it with crossguard, you want to catch the blade in there. With this, it's basically just bouncing. There's a reason why crossguards are quite long.
Invented. And you can catch it some of the time. I changed up my angle a little bit to see how much of a tight angle I could get, and it needs to be fairly aggressive.
But the success rate was not good.
No. Now, just for completion, I'm going to go grab a blade with a crossguard, and we'll try all that again.
Yep.
Okay, so that's lightly aggressive. That's just a slight angle. It's obviously catching, but for completion's sake, let's try a heavier angle.
Now, you caught every single one of them.
Every single one, without fail.
And I don't know how much we'll be able to see from the cameras, but the angle you were catching the first ones on was very shallow.
So basically what we tried was a 45-degree shot, which is a pretty common shot. 45-degree shot at a slight angle. Okay, so my blade was tilted slightly, my crossguard was tilted slightly, catching it every time.
To be honest, the Suba wasn't very good. It really wasn't.
Its job is to protect the hand, which it did.
It did, but it wasn't protecting the rest of your arm or anything. And in most cases, it was actually bouncing from the Suba onto your finger.
So we've got some marks here that you can see. These are actually fresh marks. So you can see, Tyrant, even though it may not look like it, we are being somewhat careful. We're still putting a bit of power in. That's a moderately decent mark from just a flat bounce. I think we can say that one is busted. Yeah.
And I think we've said it a couple times, but I genuinely love the Katana. It's my favorite design sword. But there's so many misconceptions about it being the best sword in the world, and it's been mythologized because of things like anime and pop culture.
Specifically.
Yes. Personally, I love it, and I like the use that I can get from it, but it's not the greatest sword in the world. It's just not.
No. But We haven't finished testing yet.
No, we haven't. No, we have not finished testing.
This sword is going to get destroyed, and Tyranth is going to be crying by the end of it. It's going to be amazing, and I'm probably actually going to shed it to you myself.
How are you, Tyranth?
I am very good today.
You have some thoughts about this katana.
Yes, I have been using this quite a bit. The only criticism I have of it so far is it's in blue. They have a crimson version coming out in July, and I've never said this before, but I'm genuinely like, I might buy that with my own personal money. That's how good this sword is. I've already cut some tatami with it, and it cuts like a laser.
Yeah.
It cuts like a laser. The fit and finish on it is good. I'm not a big fan of the mixing of metals here. I would prefer it just to be one or the other, but that's just a personal preference.
Yep.
In terms of the actual blade profile, like you said, it's really well done.
nice.
For this price range, especially.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm finding with like the Baylor arms, just brilliant.
In general, yeah.
Like they're affordable, high quality stuff, which is the range, my favorite range. Give me affordable, give me good quality. I'm there.
Now, you like well-balanced swords at the hilt, right?
Not for katanas. Like katanas should be more, you know.
I mean, in a general sense, you
Yeah.
prefer them. I prefer more evenly balanced, a bit more blade heavy. And the weight on this, you really can't explain it. You got to feel it. It is beautiful. Using this thing it's a real treat.
There we go.
Yeah, but let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, because with all that said, link in the description for anyone who's interested in this sword. We're going to see how tough it really is.
Cult of Athena, send us the crimson versions. Send us 2, please.
Because this is going to survive this video.
It is a bit sad.
Mate, we'll see. Like, do you have any predictions?
I'm hoping we don't snap the blade. I'm hoping we don't.
T10 steel is no joke. So
yeah, but what we're going to be doing with it
we're going to be doing a lot.
We are not
with it.
doing things that you would usually do.
No.
We are going to be truly pushing it past its limits. I'm hope that we are pleasantly surprised. All right, so the myth for this one is that what?
Only katanas can cut tatami.
Wow, I mean, that one is very easily disproven.
Yeah.
With countless clips and examples. But I've got a Kriegsmesser here. Why don't we just try it?
I'll be over here. Well, you know, like, you hit it on the weak point.
Well, let's have a look at this nice, beautifully clean cut.
Yeah.
It had a bit of movement, but to be fair, this is so loose that there's going to be a little bit of movement.
And in
that's
fact,
that's from our actual holder.
yeah, and in fact, movement means it had natural give, and you still cut through it. So I think we're very easily disproven with that.
Yeah, I think so.
So I know you. Do you want to cut it with the katana anyway? Of course you do.
Maybe.
Give me that. Give me that. So I'm putting this down for Tyranth because we don't want Tyranth to have wet hands and then handle a katana. It might slip. But I have a challenge for you.
What is it?
So if you want to hit this for the sake of completion with a katana, of course he does, I want you to do it from a draw. I want you to do it Iedo style, as traditional as you know, being the katana bro that you are.
Okay, I'll try and do a nice little...
Sure, I'm gonna, again, make room for Tyranth, but we'll see how he goes with this one. I'm gonna stand way over here. What are we moving on to next?
Well, I think that's all of the little ones. Is there any other little ones? I think we covered all of the little myths.
Okay, how about you do a couple of quick hits and destroy the final part of the tatami mat, and I'll go check out, I'll go check out the our little booklet to see what we've got.
Thank you to everyone who is watching this video, and especially those people who are supporting us through the different platforms that are available. It means more now than ever before because ad revenue has become some of the worst we've seen in a long time, and we just can't continue making this content being so reliant on ad revenue. But with the community support, we're able to continue to make this, and we hope to actually grow that to make bigger and better content for you. So if you want to ensure us being able to continue to make this content, anything that you could donate would be wonderful, and you can do so through Player, which is an excellent platform for community support and gives one of the biggest cuts back to the creators themselves, as well as on Subscribestar. We have channel memberships here on YouTube, and Patreon is also available. And if you're wanting to get some interesting or fun merch, we have a new shirt design that is launching. Links in the description below. We can't thank our supporters enough, but we're certainly going to try because it's thanks to you that we're able to continue to make this content. We really appreciate you. Thank you for it. And let's get back to the video.
So Tyrus is here for the minute. It's going to take him at least 10 minutes to get ready because we've told him to armor up with gloves, with vest, with arming jackets, with everything for safeties. Oh my God, you want to hit this stuff, don't you?
I'm ready.
He's totally ready. And he's actually done all the armoring like I've asked him to too.
Well, yeah, because we are genuinely going to be hitting this katana onto that blade. And
so this is basically like one of the tactical blades that
the zombie defense type weapons.
that we have lying around. But it is still, when braced like this, quite capable. So I might let you put the mask on first.
Alrighty.
Totally trust. So we have armored up all of his vitals. We even got him to wear a helmet over his hair.
Tell me when you're ready, Nate.
All right, I'm gonna step out of the way for this one. Striking in 3, 2, 1.
So we are going to try again. The blade actually sunk down into the 2x4s. We're not too concerned about that edge. That is just a cheap sword.
But you can see that it,
Yeah.
But this is, although cheap, it's a chunky piece of steel, and that's a chunk missing. So that's a chip taken out of that, and that's a definitive chunk. So
let's try this again, and we'll see if we can get the edge on that sword to stay still.
Yeah. All right. We do need this to survive at least long enough for, for a few more tests. But can you bring up?
Whoa, hold on. We have a bit of the blade in the blade.
So that's kind of expected, but I honestly would have expected it in the other way.
Yeah.
Like that just should be worse steel, but I suppose this is thinner steel. But I mean, take a look at that. That is chunky damage. Those waves that are being taken out, that's interesting. I haven't seen waves like that being taken out before. Well,
we have just finished up our testing, and we tested a lot, but we're not finished yet. But I thought we'd run through some of the results that we've got so far because, it's just...
Does this make you sad, Tyrus?
It genuinely does. This is carnage, Nate.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So there's some things that have happened. First off, the edge has been obliterated.
Destroyed.
It's also bent. I don't know if we might put some B-roll in or we might show it a little bit later, but we actually bent the blade. I'm going to be honest, the edge performed worse than I expected it to.
Yeah,
I thought it would do a bit better.
So I can understand why this went so bad for the katana because it is very thin and very hard steel there.
But even when we were testing the Suba, it also didn't do well against the blunt blade.
Which is true, but it is the same thin and hard steel as it is here, unlike, say, a Western sword that you would expect to be a little sharper at the top, maybe a little duller at the bottom, because that's your designed for blocking. This isn't designed for blocking. The Suba isn't designed to catch sword.
So, the sword is it's pretty bad right now. It genuinely is. However, for the most part, could you still use it? No, you couldn't. Most of the edge is gone.
For the most part, you couldn't use it as a functional slicing sword.
Which is its main function.
It's now a jagged bar of steel that would save you in a pinch. But it's the same thing we've said before with other objects. Well, if you have nothing else, it'll work.
Like we said, we're not finished. We've got a few more tests. I think we've got 2 more. We'll test some thrusting. We might even just test some other stuff for fun. And then you've got something you wanted to end on.
Yeah, so I've got one that just has always sounded wrong to me. And fans of this channel know that, everybody loves castles and it's to do with castles.
Okay, all right. So let's head out there and finish up the testing.
All right. This is stuck now. I like this.
We have another car door.
I like car doors. We sent to smash it. Though last time we played with a car door, I broke a weapon. Oh wait, we're actually trying to break the weapon this time.
Well, I might break the weapon this time. So I think
you're probably going to break the weapon this time, to be honest.
I've been surprised, to say the least, at some of our testing.
Yeah, Katana Boy is losing his weapon.
But we'll wait until the end to fully talk about what has transpired.
Okay, so I feel like we're going to have I want a Matrix moment right now with like slicing through a car door, and I know it's not going to happen.
I mean, I can try.
You can try, but so this is kind of working through, I suppose, one of those myths of can a katana cut through armor? I imagine you're going to start with a stab.
Yeah, we'll start with a few thrusts.
Because, like we found out last time, there's obviously multiple layers. Well, we kind of knew last time, but we did see there's multiple layers to a card door. You've got the softer outer layer and then the harder inner layer with lots of different chunks, I suppose, to hold structure in different ways.
The reason I want to start with a thrust is because the tip of the katana is actually undamaged. There's nothing's actually happened up here, so it's still pretty much brand new. So we'll test a few thrusts and then we'll do a few chops, but this blade is already...
It may or may not. So I do have one more myth that I want to test, but it needs to survive this first. So let's find out.
We'll just wait and see.
If this works. I'm going to give you a bit of room.
Yep.
All right, striking in 3, 2, 1. Striking in 3, 2, 1.
But please bear in mind that a car door is very thin metal. And even with it being so thin, the katana wasn't able to cut through it, but it was able to pierce it. Most historical steel armor was much thicker, and swords can rarely ever pierce through them unless they find a particularly thin spot. And even then, their penetration isn't that great.
The next test is a giant stone. So this is a big piece of blue stone that I would be comfortable building a castle out of.
Right.
And the myth is that katanas could stab into stone so that ninjas, or, you know...
Stab into that? I mean, we can stab into that, but we can't stab into that.
Samurais could scale walls. That's the myth. I feel like this isn't going to happen.
Okay.
But it is the myth that we're meant to be testing.
I already know the results.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Hey.
Well, the question more isn't, can a sword stab into stone? The question really is going to be, can the sword being survived stabbed at stone?
Yes. Well, it's not going to be able to... Let's be very clear.
If that goes into the stone, oh my God.
I am King Arthur if it does.
No, you need to pull it out again.
Oh, right. Then I'm Merlin.
also-
I put the sword into the stone.
That's not...
Whatever it is.
Let's just let him... Yeah, let's just let him. What you'll notice is that did actually go in. Now it snapped the tip off, but it did actually break its way into the rock. And if we look really close here, we'll see that that's a brand new vertical slice. Now it's not cutting like it would normally cut. What it's doing is it's chipping away other pieces of rock. So this, being tool steel, is kind of doing what a chisel would do in this instance.
Right.
The tip has completely rolled.
Yeah.
Completely rolled. It's snapped, really.
Oh, well, it has, but I mean, I did it more than once, so now it's completely rolled.
Okay.
It's just, it has a nice curve on it.
It's a good point. And that bend
is worse.
Yeah, it's gotten a little bit worse, that's for sure.
I don't know if we were able to show it on the camera before. It held up. I actually thought that would probably break the tip. And it didn't, because I wasn't holding back as much as I was holding back on, let's say, the car door, because the car door, especially with the slashing, I knew it wasn't going to do anything because the blade is basically in pieces, which brings us on to the most important point. It has held up in a lot of regards I didn't think it would, but it's also performed a lot worse in a lot of ways that I didn't think it would. This edge is just...
dead.
You can't,
the edge is dead.
Actually fix this.
Yeah, and like, for stabbing, it held up. For just general damage of the blade, like how rattly these components are after hitting things that shouldn't be hit. Actually not too bad, all things considered, but its edge is ruined. Like, the main fighting component of a sword.
And they were ruined very early on.
Very early on.
Now, I just want to go back to the fittings. The Suba is loose. This could probably be fixed. Now, obviously, it's held in place by two bamboo pins that holds the whole handle together. However, the cap here is completely just loose. And it keeps rattling, and I actually thought it was the blade. And I realized it was actually this cap down here.
Oh, there you go.
But, see, like that. We're getting a lot of rattle. So, we have finished testing. And the blade survived, which...
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised about. Wow.
But can you really say it survived?
We thought it was going to break. That's what I meant.
As in, it didn't snap in two.
Yes.
But I have a feeling not many people would call this survive.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be able to take, like, compared to this, obviously, they hit each other, and which one looks better?
Yeah.
I find that particularly intriguing.
This is just a bar of steel.
Yeah.
This is a really bad sword.
Well, I think it's high carbon still, and it has a decent temper on it, but it's not super, it's softer, which is...
Yeah, I know, but just, it's hard to pick up on camera, but this...
But I don't like the design.
No.
It's too heavy, overbuilt.
It feels like a bar of steel. It doesn't feel like a
We
sword.
all don't like the design of this one in particular, but...
Now, in regards to... Because we're also doing a review of this sword, right? There's some interesting bits of feedback where it wasn't as durable as we liked, yet in other times it was surprisingly durable.
Yep.
And so it's a bit of a give and take. Now, I'm actually not surprised at the big chunks that came out of this. Katanas usually have a higher hardness on the edge. That's what they were going for with this. It's T10 steel, but they always try and go for a higher hardness on the edge.
It's also the angle of the edges.
Exactly, and the angle of this edge is much more narrow, and we can actually see how thick the blade is at this point because of the chips, and it's like 1 mil right here. And so we all know a narrow edge is more fragile,
yes.
And then when you combine that with a very hard edge, putting that against very hard things, you're going to get this damage. But that should debunk the myth that katanas are invincible because
absolutely.
they have this level of brittleness
Well,
by nature of their design.
Well, these bigger chunks were actually taken out by hitting this sword at 90 degrees. But these ones, when we were doing this early, these are what surprised me because this was versus like blunt tinkers. So admittedly, still steel swords.
When we were testing the Suba, so that wasn't even like...
Yes.
We weren't really even aiming for the edge. There was a couple times where
There
you
was,
lent
but
it
like-
with the edge, but that wasn't the main point. And that was deep cuts.
Yeah, and we were, facing the camera for it, but we were sort of facing the blade almost directly towards the sword or tilting it a little bit as the sword was coming in, but it wasn't 90-degree turns.
And with the level of abuse that you put into, like I said, I'm not surprised by the damage, but also it didn't snap in two either. And so in some areas it held up. Like you said, the tip damage, surprisingly so.
Yes. I was using one hand because safety squints were engaged, but I was genuinely trying to snap the tip at that point. I was like, all right, I'll just snap the tip off in the stone, and it didn't. And it's actually fixable. You can fix that.
That is.
You can't fix this.
You can't fix these. No.
Though, this is like destroying a sword more than what it should be. It was going up against other things in ways that it really shouldn't have. It was cutting, as Tyrant will attest, it was cutting beautifully prior to hand.
Yeah.
It was doing... It was a good chopper, and it was cutting very well.
Slicer, not even a chopper.
Cutting tatami, water bottles, fruit, obviously. It was beautiful. But as soon as we put another blade on it, now just imagine we actually used two katana edges against one another. That's where I'm thinking, what's going to happen here?
Oh yes. But shouldn't be too much of a shock. Really good against soft targets, cuts like a beast. Against hard targets, it struggles to hold an edge.
Yeah, well, because now we got loose fittings. Everything is loose now. I don't think the bamboo pins have broken. I do think that they are very deformed, though.
There's one important test that we need to make sure that we find out. And people, they might not want us to test this with a damaged katana.
Before we do that, I think we got to call it. All of the myths for this one and misconceptions are busted.
Except one we need to find out.
Oh, what is it?
Can it cut through space and time?
Oh,
Now, we don't want to test that with the damaged one. This is why I brought the O-Katana ready to test this.
Okay.
All right, so better stand behind me. We don't know what's going to happen. And maybe to the side so I don't hit on the backswing. So maybe
I don't know why, but I feel like I have to defend myself here for some reason.
Okay, we don't know what's going to happen.
You're cutting space and time. Like,
well, we'll see. We'll see.
busted.
Busted.
It's not working.
So can we say that like all of the myths, the katanas are mythical, magical swords? They can do everything. They can do anything.
I was really hoping it would cut through space and time.
What? So we get sucked into a black hole?
Oh,
It would have been epic.
The katana is just a sword like any other sword. It's made of steel. It's not magical. It's not mythical. It's a great sword. It does pretty good at certain things, but it's not better than a long sword or any other European equivalent just because it's katana.
Yeah, you put it up against a stress test where it should fail, and it's probably going to fail. All right, well.
There we go. That was a lot of fun. I've never had the pleasure of doing destruction testing on a sword, so
It wasn't pleasurable. I want to be clear about this.
Yeah, I do have to say,
I found it lots of fun to watch. But we do need to give massive credit to Cult of Athena for sending this Baylor Arms Katana for review. We wouldn't... I would be much more reluctant to do a destruction test on one that I paid money for. But they sent it to us for review, so we're willing to put it on the chopping block, so to speak.
Probably not the review they had in mind, but hey, it actually surprised me in some areas and disappointed me in others.
And look, my observations about just the profiling, the fit and finish, the design, beautiful sword, and strong enough yet also weak in other areas, but you almost expect that by its design.
I doubt people are going to be doing what we did with it at all, but if you want to cut tatami, you want to cut water bottles, you want to do any of that sort of stuff, you want to put it on your wall, it's beautiful, it has good fit and finish, the blade is actually really nice, but
if there are destruction tests, it can hold up the stab ones a little better
the
than...
edge. Probably not as durable as you would like, but again, you almost expect that because this has, out of lots of katana profiles, it has a very narrow edge angle on this one. It's a very hardened edge, so like I said, you kind of expect it, but a lot of fun. Thank you, Cult of Athena. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you. Hope to see you on the next video here on Shadiversity, and until then, farewell. I really wanted to see it cut through space and time.
one more time.
You reckon one more?
Shad, it's
Give
not
it a go.
gonna...
One more?
Give it a go.
All right, one more.
Let's try it.
Oh, we got to pack up.
What's
Why
the
are we...
worst that could happen?
Good point. All right.
I feel doom all of a sudden.
Coming soon to Shadiversity.
This is just a test piece. We want to see what type of quality of a carbon fiber sheet we can create. I think we've got something real special in store.